Well, I got into telecommunications after being in the Navy. I was in communications, electronics, advanced electronics while I was in the military in the Navy. And I got out, and at the time, Pac Bell was hiring. And so I started working in California at Pac Bell as a technician. And so I went from working on jets and all of the electronic systems on that to working on phone systems. Not systems, but just the network, providing service to customers, residential, business. And you know, from there I kind of got coerced into going into management. I had finished my degree while I was in the military. I had run crews while I was in the military, and so they started working on me to go into management. And so after spending a few years as a tech, I transitioned into managing I&M crews. And that was in the, originally as a tech, I was in kind of the central part of California, south of Fresno. And then I was in the San Jose area as running my first crew. And I'm a small town kind of guy, and living in the Bay Area and being in that environment, just really, there's a lot of neat things to do, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And an opportunity, I had been stationed up in the Pacific Northwest, an opportunity came my way from Quest. So I transitioned to a management position in the Portland area. And from there, I had a opportunity to really be able to grow my knowledge base of working with different aspects of the network operations side of the business. So I started out with a residential I&M crew, then got that one running pretty smoothly, and they said, well, hey, we want you to work on this business crew. So I went and started working with a business crew and kind of helped them improve how they were doing things, and then I was asked to go help with a cable maintenance crew. So it seemed like in the time I was in the Portland metro area, I was moving from one crew to the next and just trying to get the operation going smoothly. But it gave me an opportunity to learn about all the different functions that they did. Eventually, I got into a rehab crew, which kind of was a quasi construction type situation, kind of got into some of the engineering of it, and then transitioned into a position where I was managing tech support and noise mitigation and 911 and all these different things. So it, as crazy as it was moving from one crew to the next, it really gave me an opportunity to see a huge variety and how all the different pieces fit. So it was really exciting. I had worked on, I had decided that I wanted to give myself an opportunity to advance. And so I worked on my MBA while I was in Portland, and I kind of missed the military thing, so and I liked camping, so I joined the National Guard and got my commission as an infantry officer. Now, as you can imagine, there's a big difference between being naval electronics, aviation electronics, to Army infantry. They're in the military, and that's the similarity. But beyond that, there's not a lot of similarity. But I thought, you know, it's another, you know, opportunity for me to learn how to manage, you know, people, work with people, and I thought it would be a good fit. And so what I didn't realize is, though, there are a lot of deployments all of a sudden with the National Guard, because we had just gotten into the second Gulf War. I had been in the first Gulf War while I was active duty. And because I was in Oregon at the time, they were an infantry brigade. They were an enhanced infantry brigade, and so we were the first ones tapped to go over to the second Gulf War. And so went and did that and came back and decided that I really wanted to make a change from corporate telecommunications. I loved my crews. I loved what we did, but I didn't like the corporate mentality of it. there just wasn't a connection to the community that we served. And so I had let my VP of network operations know that I was going to probably be looking for something else. And he said, well, hold on. He said, I've got a situation that I think might be perfect for you. And there was a company that was a wholly owned subsidiary of Quest, because at this point US West and Quest had merged and Nacho the crook was going to jail. And they had an entity called Malheur Bell. It was Malheur Home Telephone Company, which had been an independent in the far eastern part of Oregon in Malheur County. And that's right on the Idaho border. And basically it operated as an independent telco, but it was owned by this big corporate entity. So my board of directors were people from Quest who really had no clue about what a small independent telco was and did, and how the way our regulation was different than theirs. I had two people at Quest that really kind of got it. One was our counsel, our general counsel, who worked with Quest and Malheur Bell, and our regulatory director, who understood the differences. And so everybody else that was a part of that board really just didn't get it. So, that was my first opportunity to be in rural telecommunications, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I loved the fact that the company had a connection to their community, that they were involved, that they were doing things to constantly improve services. Now, we had to kind of get creative so that it kind of went under the radar of corporate, but we could do that. And we were far enough away from that we brought broadband to a majority of our customers. And it was an area that size-wise is probably comparable to the area we cover here at Nex-Tech. And we had about 12,000 access lines. When I got there, we were probably able to cover about 70% with broadband, and that was primarily in the larger communities, but it really wasn't outside of town. And so my whole focus was get broadband, DSL out to these customers. And so, like I said, we just got creative. We said, well, we need to do this. Well, let's throw in a remote cabinet here, and a remote cabinet there. And we worked with the customers, that really had the desire to be connected. And they became our biggest advocates, going out and signing up their customers on a list saying, hey, you get it to us, and we're there. So just loved that. Thought that was where I was going to retire. Well, I mentioned the fact that was corporately owned by Quest, and they decided that they were going to roll up all the different legal entities into one of three Quest corporate organizations. And that meant that this organization was going to be folded into Quest. I tried to get them to understand that really wasn't financially smart, but they looked at this as a rounding error for their overall operation. Even though we were profitable, it really wasn't a blip on the radar. So, I knew that my opportunities were going back to corporate, and I knew that wasn't an opportunity I wanted to pursue. And so I had a great opportunity in Little River, Kansas. Mutual Telephone Company offered me the opportunity to come to Kansas as the general manager. And so about 6 years ago, I came to Kansas. First time I had been in the Midwest, I thought, I've been on the East Coast, I've been on the West Coast, let's learn more about the Midwest. And so I was able to come to Mutual. The board had, the goal of growing the business. They understood that the dynamics were changing in our industry, that, we needed to do things that were going to allow us to bring in new revenues and grow our footprint. And so that's how I got to Kansas. And that's kind of my little, synopsis of, life in the telecommunications industry? Well, as you mentioned, there is a connection through Nex-Tech Wireless, Mutual being a smaller ownership stake in Nex-Tech Wireless, and I was familiar with the organization. You know, as you become involved in the state, you learn about the different companies and you learn what they're doing. And you know, it's amazing that some of the things that I was trying to do at Mutual, then I'd turn around and I was like, well, I didn't realize Nex-Tech was already doing that. That's, you know, and so I had been able to start creating some connections with some of the folks here, bouncing ideas off of them. When Larry made the announcement that he was going to retire, I was like, oh wow, that's, yeah, you kind of know it's going to happen at some point, but you know, you just never know when. And so I thought about it, and I kind of visited with Jim Harries because I knew that, you know, he was on the board of Nex-Tech Wireless and Nex-Tech, and just, yeah, did some talking with my wife, kind of prayed about it, just, you know, said, well, let's see if this is a good fit. I loved where I was at, but I saw, man, there's a great opportunity here. This is a fantastic organization, and I just decided that I would see if it was something that would work out. If the board liked me and I liked the board, that was key, because you know, as a GM, that's who you report to. You have to have you have to be able to click with the board, and I thought that was important. But again, I knew that this was a fantastic organization, and I was excited by the opportunity when I got to meet with the board, and you know, they made an offer, and I said, you know, I can't refuse this. This is just too great of an opportunity. So that's I don't know. That's kind of how that happened. I've got some big shoes to fill with Larry, because I mean, Larry's kind of like a legend in our industry. If you really think about, you know, he and his team have always been kind of on the cutting edge of, you know, being proactive and progressive with services, with growing the business. And, you know, I'm going to really have to work hard to, you know, try and keep that level that Larry has established. I think it's great that you have, you know, continuity within the organization. You know, the fact that you've had 3 CEOs up to this point, you know, and a good chunk of that was under Larry. I'm excited about it. Again, it's before even putting my name in the hat, I was trying to learn about the organization. As I got more, as I got closer to the opportunity to meet with the board, I started looking at how are the policies and the procedures set up, because when you start peeling back those layers and saying, okay, are things set up in what I consider a good manner, that tells you a lot. And I was just, every time I'd look into something, I was like, wow, that's impressive. I like what they're doing here. I like the fact that it's an organized, well thought out process and procedure. And so, you know, that was very exciting to see that, because in a lot of my previous positions, I would have to go in and create that. And so I don't have to do that here. I come into a well-oiled machine, and that's really great. But it's because of the people. You know, you've got a great team here. And as with any organization, you can have the best CEO in the world, but it's your team that makes you successful. And Larry said that at the employee meeting, you know, and he's dead on. You know, our job is to try and help, you know, take the board's vision, create a plan, create a strategy, and then do our best to do what we can to make everybody else successful. And so, you know, I am excited about the fact that I'm the 4th guy here as the CEO, and I hope I can give you all a lot of good years. Well, right now it really is learning. I had told the board, I said, I don't expect to make any immediate changes because I think that would be foolish. The reality is this is a large organization, and I need to have a good understanding of how the different pieces and parts work together. What are we doing in this community? What are we doing in that community? What are we doing in general? And as I get my arms kind of around that, and I mean, it'll take a long time to get my arms around it the way I would like to, because in all of my past experiences, I've had my fingers in everything. You can't do that with a larger organization. It's more like some of the military companies that I commanded, and you work with your XO and your platoon leaders and your first sergeant and platoon sergeant, and you work with them to make them successful, but then you have to kind of let them do their thing. And when you're in a small organization, you can't do that because they need everybody all the way up to their elbows working on it. So I would say that initially it's really trying to get my arms around what do we have in place, and eventually I'll have a good grasp on that. And as I was talking at the employee meeting, I'm kind of a techie geek, or at least I wish I were a techie geek. I'm a wannabe techie geek, and for the past few years, this year I didn't go because of the transition to Nex-Tech, but I would go to CES and say, okay, what in consumer electronics is changing the way our customers demand communication and entertainment? Because that's what we're providing to them. Whether it's picking up a phone and calling their neighbor, or getting on the computer and communicating through Facebook through a broadband connection, or whether it's interactive television or whatever it might be, that show kind of gives you an idea of how things are transitioning. And I love to start brainstorming after that. Get crazy with my ideas. And sometimes that scares my managers, but that's why I get them to give me feedback and such. But really it's taking a look at how is consumer demand evolving, because that impacts everything. It doesn't immediately impact regulation, it doesn't immediately impact laws, but eventually the consumers, businesses, residences, governments, whatever it might be, that influences what we have to be able to provide. So it's looking at that, embracing that that's going to constantly change, and keeping an eye on how can we be in the best position to effectively meet those demands and do it better than our competition. Because the one thing that really has changed in the past decade is it used to be that as a telco, you didn't have a lot of competition for the services you provided. Well, nowadays, because telephone service, broadband service, television service is now all converging into IP, everybody's competing with us in different manners, whether it's through fiber, through coax, through copper, through fixed wireless, through mobile wireless, through satellite. So whatever we do, we have to do with excellence, because if we don't, there's somebody else that wants that customer. And what I've found with the independent telcos, the rural telcos, is we do provide better. We care about our community, we care about our customers, they're not numbers. And we have really good people that are smart, that want to do things that meet the consumer demands in the areas that we live at, because it's where our families are, our kids are, and that's where we live. And so I think that that's what I'll continue to do. I'll be meeting with the executive management team and trying to figure out, okay, where can I best complement them? And as we have a chance to get to know each other a little better, hopefully I'll be able to identify what I can help with the most. And every once in a while you'll see me back there talking to Ron, just so I can feel like I'm doing something that's network related, because that's kind of where I cut my teeth. But I think that it'll be just continuing to look at how things are changing, evolving, and how are we going to be in a best position to win the business of our customers, keep them happy, because we're still offering them the best possible services. All right, I am married to Shirley, and we have 4 children. My oldest is almost 22. He just got back from Afghanistan. He's in the Marine Corps, and really glad to have him back on American soil. Then we have a son, Taylor, who is 19, and he's in Rice County also, but not at home anymore. And then we have Olivia, who is 12, going on 17, as I mentioned at the employee meeting. Shirley just told me she's 5'9" now. It's like, kind of blows me away. My little 12-year-old is way taller than Mom. And so she'll be 13 here pretty soon. And then Sabrina, who we call Beanie, she will be turning 11 here this coming week. And so 2 girls, 2 boys.
What's your oldest son's name?
Alex. And Chinese exchange student named Karina, who will be here for another week, and 3 dogs and a cat. The plan is for me to do my best to make the girls happy. And I say that in that, I intend that I will probably spend time in Lenora. I'll probably spend time in Hayes. What I don't know is, where is the house going to be? Yeah. And really, that's dependent on what makes the girls happy, because I will spend a lot of time at the office. I will spend time on the road, but every day their routine will be going to school or doing their thing, and they'll be at home. So I don't know at this point if we'll be, I just keep saying I'll be somewhere between Norton and Hayes. And I know that we're beginning to start looking for a home. We'll be putting our home up for sale here probably sometime in the end of February. And hopefully we'll get that sold fairly quickly. I grew up in Georgia, and I'm from a town called Perry, Georgia. It's right in the middle of the state. And all my family is is in Georgia. My family's kind of spread out. Central part outside of Atlanta and the southern part of the state. But that's who I am, as a kind of southern boy who has kind of now been around the world a couple of times. But I grew up in a small town, and we had a farm that although we didn't work the farm, we rented the farm out. We raised some hogs, had a couple of horses, but had about 125 acres, and that it was the family farm that had been there for generations. And so, I left Georgia back in '85 when I went into the Navy. I had gone 2 years in college. I thought I was going to be a doctor. All my young age, I thought I was going to be a doctor. I did everything that I did from the time I was knee-high to a grasshopper till I got out of high school was to be a doctor. And then I got to college, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So that's when I got in the military, and I just decided, well, let's grow up and figure out what it is, what direction I'm supposed to go. And so at this point, I have been outside of the state of Georgia more than I actually lived in the state of Georgia. But that's still home. And what's unique is my wife is from the Portland, Oregon metro area. She's a city girl. I'm a small town boy, country boy, I guess. And so the first time we moved, because we met in Oregon, the first time we moved was to Eastern Oregon, about 6 hours away from her family. Second time we moved was to Kansas, and she was convinced that third move was taking us to Georgia. Said that's not the case, and this proves it.
Yeah.
But that's so we're in a situation where we've got parents on opposite corners of the U.S. and we're kind of right in the middle, And so that's been interesting because we don't get to spend as much time with family as we'd like to. But we still, Shirley talks to her family pretty regularly. I talk to my folks a lot, and so we still stay in touch pretty good. I love doing things with my family. You know, having kids, we've always tried to keep them active. You know, the boys from when Alex was young till Sabrina now, you know, they've always been involved in things, you know, whether it be sports or things at church or the band at school or whatever it might be. And so I really enjoy being able to go to see my kids' things. I am getting a little older, but I still like trying to play basketball and softball and volleyball, and although the next day I probably regret it more than I used to, I still enjoy getting out and mixing it up and having some good competitive fun. We're active in our church, and that's always been very important to us. And you know, beyond that, I try and get a little sleep occasionally. But you know, that's probably what I spend most of my time doing. I tend to work on projects around the house, outside, inside, whatever it needs. Although, like I would like to be more of a techie geek, you know, because I think that's cool, I also think of myself as kind of the pseudo handyman, so I'm probably working on projects that I could probably get an expert to do. But, you know, I try and stay busy all the time. It's rare that you see me sitting in one place not doing anything.